Who started last time?
You're listening to the Theology of Games podcast, your source for gaming news, reviews, and interviews with the top voices in the industry. Find us online at theologyofgames.com. And now, here are your hosts, Scott Firestone and Jeremiah Isley.
Hey everyone! Welcome to episode 16. We're just moving right along here. This is the Theology of Games podcast, and I am one of your hosts, Jeremiah Isley. I'm joined by the other host,
Scott Firestone.
How's it going, Scott?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Jeremiah?
I am fantastic.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, it could be worse, but running on, I think I got 4 hours of sleep last night. So
the joys of being a new parent again.
Yes. It's brand new again. Or something like that.
What's going on in your world? What's coming up? It's April, late April when we're recording this, and I think Origins is coming up. Are you going to Origins?
I am going to Origins. I actually got a text message last night from one of my buddies who always goes with me. The hotel room is booked. So nice. I'm actually going for 2 days at least. We're going to be there Thursday and Friday. Rumor has it I might actually go back down. So I have to work on Saturday. Like I've got a gig going on that weekend. But I might actually go back down on Sunday and take the boys because they didn't get to go last year. And if I tell them they can't go this year, there might be a mutinous lot on my hands.
Yeah. The Isley uprising.
Yeah, that would not be a pretty sight. So we're hoping to make that all work out. But I am going to Origins, and I've actually communicated with a few people in the industry and told them, yep, I'm going to be there. And so we're kind of planning some meetups and things like that already. So very, very excited about that. It's last year when I went, it was pretty big whirlwind. I was on a week-long shoot down in Dayton, Ohio, which is near Columbus. And I kind of got dropped off on the way back, and it was super convoluted, and I barely remember it. But it was a good year. And but I'm hoping this year will be even better.
Nice. I'm still just as jealous of you as I am every year.
I was gonna say, what about you, Scott? Are you going to Origins? Or?
No. Am I going to Origins? No. Am I going to Gen Con? No. Am I going to Board Game Geek Con? No. Am I going to the Gathering of Friends? No.
What about Dice Tower?
No.
No. Okay. No. Well, we'll do something about that one of these days. Maybe we'll get a GoFundMe going or something, and we can
send Scott to something,
something somewhere. Yeah. So that's kind of the news on my side. Should we take a look at some news in the gaming industry? What do you say?
Yeah, there's a few things. Fantasy Flight just announced that they are going to come out with a new living card game. What a shock!
What?
Yeah, they are apparently very popular.
Right? You mean they want to make more money?
Yeah, they are primed to do that with every franchise they have. But they acquired the rights to Legend of the Five Rings, which used to be a CCG.
Right.
And back in the day. And then it kind of drifted off, and then AEG bought the rights to it, and they were putting out some games for a while.
Right.
And just a few years ago, I don't know, 3 or 4 maybe is all, they were coming out with these new box sets where they were trying to kind of revive it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was a CCG at the time. It was more like here's kind of a self-contained thing. And I ended up playing it with a friend, and the idea behind it is that there's this huge mythos behind the Legend of the Five Rings, but it takes place, I don't know if it's Japanese. I think it's Japanese, and there are these different clans, and they're kind of fighting for supremacy. And so there are the Crane clan and the Lion clan and the Crab clan, and they each feel very different and play very differently. And so a friend who had that AEG box, he and I played a game, and it was super convoluted to me because it still used some of the mechanics from the CCG that I had never played before.
Okay.
And so I could see some potential, like, oh, this is cool, but there was so much undercurrent that I just didn't understand. And I thought, I don't think I'm going to get into this now. I can't do the money. I can't do the time. And then it just kind of fizzled out, and AEG basically said, hey, we're done with Legends of the Five Rings. And it had been around for a long time. So suddenly Fantasy Flight says, hey, we're making an LCG of it. And Nate French, who designed the Lord of the Rings card game, is one of the designers on it. Yes. And a couple of people who are, I guess, like super well-known Legend of the Five Rings players. So it's got this great pedigree of people who are behind the game and love it, obviously. And so this starting box, it reminded me a lot, actually, of Conquest, Warhammer Conquest from the LCG, because you're kind of going to have, I think, maybe 5 of the clans are going to be in the box.
Okay.
And if you want a full set, you need to buy 2 or 3 copies of the base set. I mean, that's kind of standard now with LCGs.
Right.
You're going to get a number of different clans out of the box. And I wondered if it would play similarly. My first thought was, they just took the mechanics of Conquest and are now porting it over there because they have the same kind of thing. But I've looked at some of the mechanics on the press release, and it does look quite different. I don't think it's just a
Right, they just didn't reskin that because
we
need to have a moment of silence for Conquest.
Oh, such a good game.
Yeah, I know. Of course it's going to be a smash because it's Fantasy Flight and they do really well with these. But the Legend of Five Rings is one of the longest running CCGs that kind of really stuck around after that CCG craze of the 90s hit, when everybody was making a collectible card game out of anything and everything they possibly could. Legend of the Five Rings actually stuck around for a while. So it'll be interesting to see if the players, jump all over this, which I'm assuming they will.
Yeah, you have a built-in fan base who missed the CCG.
Right,
and maybe they've never jumped in. Yeah, maybe they've never jumped into an LCG, but this is the thing. I would not be surprised if this was a huge hit.
Yeah.
Just out of the gate. Maybe it won't have legs. You never know with these kind of things, but there's a built-in fan base. So Fantasy Flight's super smart.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So speaking of Fantasy Flight, actually both of these news headlines we've got here revolve around living card games from Fantasy Flight. They announced just about a week ago, as of the time we're recording, the Lord of the Rings Mountain of Fire deluxe expansion. It's one of the big expansions that kind of, kicks off the sagas with them. And a lot of people are asking, and rightfully so, is this the end of the Lord of the Rings card game? And I don't know that there's any official word out there. I poked around on the website a little bit to see if there was any kind of thing, but I got to assume it's close to it. I mean, if we're getting close to the ring being destroyed and that sort of thing. I mean, I know there's more that happens in the books when they go back to the Shire and things like that. So there might be another saga, another cycle that's coming out. But man, it could be the end of it. And I don't know how I feel about that.
I wonder. So on Board Game Geek, it says that it's the last saga expansion, and the saga ones are the ones that are closely tied to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And those are ones like the Black Riders and On the Doorstep and things like that.
Right. Hill and Underhill and
right.
Yeah.
And so I think this is the last one of those, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them now go back to things like we had, Khazad-dûm and
some of the original ones,
Heirs of Numenor, which were tied, of course, to Lord of the Rings, but they weren't specifically following the plot.
Right. There were storylines that kind of took place outside of, or alongside of, I guess, maybe a better way to say that. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I hope they keep going. Of course, I say that as though I've been keeping up with the game. So I could just add more, but I'm so far behind, and I know you are too.
Yeah, I am. I guess selfishly, I kind of hope it's the last one, because then you'll start seeing them really cheap, like people just kind of offloading their collections, and then I can gather up all the ones that I am so desperately behind on.
Yeah.
But that is still one of my top games of all time.
Absolutely.
And I hope, if this is the end, I hope it's a worthy end for it.
What's worthier than ditching the ring and Mount Doom?
Well, I'm not that that wouldn't be, but I'm just thinking in terms of the cards they include and that sort of thing. But yes, of course, you must destroy the wing.
Did you say the wing?
I might have said the wing.
Did I mention destroy the wing?
Did I mention 4 hours of sleep?
Yes, you have grace, but I also have grace to make fun of you. So
absolutely. The sad thing, like I woke up this morning and I go, okay, I was trying to do the math, which is really hard to do after apparently 4 hours of sleep, and I kind of was like, oh, cool, I got like 4 hours. That's pretty good. And then it hit me like, where is my life right now that I think 4 hours of sleep is really good?
Yeah, it's one of those things that your mind, when you have kids, you just forget how crazy it is when you have babies. And that's why we keep having babies, because we're allowed to forget those things.
Yeah.
And not remember again until the baby's here. And then you go, oh, yeah, dang it.
Well, and it's, the whole science behind people, they say the human body forgets pain. Like you know that you were in pain, but you don't remember that. Like you don't have like a surge of that pain or whatever when you think about something. So that's why women are like, yeah, let's have another baby, because they obviously don't remember the excruciating pain that their body went through. Not that I know firsthand, but
yeah, we're not pretending to have any idea how much pain you ladies go through.
Yeah. It's about equivalent to when I get a cold. So
where's my bell? I'm going to ring my bell. Come help me. Okay, let's move on. Jeremiah, let's talk about things that we've been playing recently. I know you've been able to the craziness has subsided a bit, and you've been able to play some games, and I've been able to do the same after some craziness. So let's talk about what you've been playing.
So the games I'm going to list off, we actually went on like a gaming spree over spring break, which was a few weeks ago now. We were fortunate enough to have some friends say, hey, why don't you go stay at our cabin, which is really like a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom, 3-bed bath, like lake house. It was crazy. Oh, nice. It was really, really, really nice. And I brought along a bag full of games, and we started playing a couple games one day, and we all decided like our mission was to play every game that we brought. So I brought like 10 or 11 games. So we had a wonderful time. The weather was kind of yucky. It was cold and rainy a lot. So there was a nice big table in the dining room, and we just kind of plopped down and played a bunch of games that weekend. So I played, we played Dungeon Raiders. We played Armadora. We played Vikings on Board. We played The Boss, Suro, and we played Seven Wonders Duel. Finally.
I've been talking it up enough.
It is totally worth the hype. Let me tell you. But let me backtrack. I wanted to touch on just a couple of these because there's a couple like hidden titles in here that don't really get a whole lot of recognition, but are actually really solid games. One of those being Dungeon Raiders. We published a review of this on the blog on theologyofgames.com. Such a fun dungeon crawl. It is what original Munchkin should be. It's super stripped down, and it is all about like everybody trying to like figure out what they can do to screw everybody else over, but not themselves. Mm-hmm. But if you play wrong, you're gonna be the one taking the hit, or whatever. So really fun little game. It's from Devere Games, which is more of an international company. I guess they're finally, last year I saw them at Origins, and they're kind of getting a presence in the States, but definitely worth checking out. And then like 3 of these are from Blue Orange Games: Armadora and Vikings on Board and The Boss. The Boss is a really cool game. Basically, it's like a mafia themed game where you place out cities. There's a city card for different cities across the country, and there's a set of cards that goes with those. And everybody knows which cards go with each city. So like, say there's a 1, 2, and a 3 loot on New York, and in Detroit there's a gun and a hospital and a loot. So they're all kind of different. And those are the cards that are in the game, and everybody gets dealt evenly those cards. So everybody knows information, and one card is dealt face down. So that is what you get if you control that city at the end of the round. But everybody that has cards for that city knows a little bit of information on what the face down card is. So every turn you have to play a card down somewhere. So you're letting more information out about the city that you're playing that card in. And then you can play your operatives there, your agents or whatever you want to call them. And so whoever has the most sitting on a city at the end scores the face down card. So you're trying to like bluff, like if oh, there's a gun there, that guy's going to go to the hospital, or that guy's going to go to jail, or whatever. You're trying to bluff people into taking control of that city because it's going to hurt them instead of helping them score. So it's this really, it's much simpler than I just explained it, but it was a really fun little bluffing kind of hidden information kind of game. And it is not necessarily Blue Orange's biggest title, but definitely a fun little game to check out. And my kids play it. They love it. And I played it with gamers. They love it. It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah. So what about you? What's been hot over at the Firestone estate?
Well, my plantation. So a couple of friends of mine go to the Gathering of Friends, and nice. One of them just got back from there, and he picked up a game that's brand new and super hot there. It's called Century Spice Road.
Okay.
And apparently this is going to be a trilogy of games that are going to explore spice trading. And so
will there be a Spice Mines of Kessel?
I don't think so. I don't. Maybe. So it said on the back, "Hey, look for the next game," and it's going to be. And I don't know how they're going to accomplish this. It's going to be standalone, or you can integrate it with the first game. And so I don't know how that's going to practically work. But anyway, this has been described as, some people call it, I think Tom Vassell called it a Splendor killer. The game Splendor is very popular. It won Spiel des Jahres. And I think part of the reason it's popular is because it's very approachable for non-gamers. It's the kind of game you can just pop down and non-gamers will pick it up easily. Okay. And have you played Splendor?
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's a fine game. It's a little light for me, and not surprisingly, I'm harsh on it. I felt sometimes like it was kind of obvious, and that's okay for a non-gamer game. I totally get that. But so this game is about spice routes, and you can do one of four things. There's a market, which is a bunch of cards laid out. On your turn, you can take one of those market cards, and they do things like let you harvest different spices or do trades. Basically, there are four different kinds of spices, and they're ranked, and so you can kind of trade this spice, two of this spice to upgrade to the next one, and you can kind of get better spices.
Okay.
And then there are victory point cards, and so another thing you could do is accomplish one of those, and they usually take a different array of spices, and they're worth different points. And then finally, the last thing you can do is you can take all of the cards you've laid out in front of you and take them back into your hand to be played again later, to do those kind of things again. So it is very easy. It's very approachable. Some interesting ideas there. And as far as a Splendor killer, I would rather play this game than Splendor.
Really?
But it's still very, very simple. I don't think too simple. There's some cool ideas there. and you can get combos going, and there's some tension of when to pick your hand back up, and is that person going to take that card before me? And so it was a pretty cool little game.
Nice.
So it should be coming soon. Right now it's like $75 for the, because it's super rare, and he was able to pick one up only because he was there. But just wait, it'll be there. Another one was, I had not heard of this. It's called Vast: The Crystal Caverns. And this is kind of I think it's a small publisher that put it out. How do I describe this? It's asymmetrical design where there's one person playing a cave, and then there are up to 4 other players playing people in a cave. There's one person playing a knight, a dragon, goblins, and a thief. And each of them has a victory condition that's basically like the knight's trying to kill the dragon, and the dragon's trying to kill the goblins, and the goblins are trying to kill the knight. Kind of an A kills B, kills C, kills D.
Right.
And the cavern, or the cave, is trying to keep those things from happening while also building itself up by laying out tiles and then collapsing the cave. And that's how the cave wins.
Nice.
So this sounded very intriguing to me. I thought, is this going to be, how can you really make it asymmetrical with all those things and different things? So intriguing premise. I did not like the way it played. There were so many little fiddly things and so many rules about who can do what and where. And the cave had weird, the cave, I played the cave and I didn't have much to do. It was like every turn I would build the cave a little bit more and then try and keep somebody alive. So the knight was sitting next to me and he was getting close to death. And so I would put out a treasure where he could go get it, and I would give him a treasure that would give him life back. And so I don't know, it just felt like I'm kind of trying to be a puppet master, but I didn't feel like I had that much control. And I had this huge stack of cave tiles I have to get out, and I don't know how I could possibly do that before one of them accomplishes their win condition, which eventually happened. Somebody did, but obviously it was just a first play, but I'm just sitting there going, I'm not sure this is as developed as it could have been, and cool premise, but I didn't like the actual outcome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you were describing the concept of it, I was like, oh, that sounds great.
Yes, it does.
It only goes so far sometimes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So cool. What else you got there?
The last thing, you were actually mentioned in this game. I was very impressed. I opened it up. I'm looking in it. And there's Jeremiah Isley's name. We played World Championship Russian Roulette from Tuesday Night Games. You're pals with Alan, and you helped play test this game at the beginning, so I'm sure you can talk about it too. But we got our copies of it and took it to game night, and everyone was kind of like, oh, that's a weird theme, and I don't know about that. And we sat down and laughed the whole time. That game is super fun. The idea is that you have this team of you're in the World Championship Russian Roulette, and you have this team, and you want to be the last person with a person left alive. And so there's these cool mechanics where you're putting hiding a card that could be a bullet, it could not be, and then you're bidding on how many times you're going to pull the trigger, and people can call you a liar and say that you hid your bullet in your pocket.
Right.
And there are crazy action cards that just break the game and make insane things happen. It sounds chaotic, and it absolutely is, which is something I normally wouldn't like. But in this light of a game and this style of a game, it's so fun. We just sat down at the very first turn. There was a full complement of 6 of us, I think is what it plays to.
Yeah.
And the very first turn, every single person ended up killing one of their people, except for me. I was the only one that was, and so I had a giant target on my back. So then everybody targets me, and I'm like, no. So of course, and so I ended up dying early, even though I admitted too, like, it's super great for you to be the only one at a table that didn't lose one of your people. It was strong.
Right.
But, I'll tell you, the theme is obviously weird. I'm thinking, wait a second, I can't really bring this out depending on who I have over. It's not like, hey, here's a couple over from church. You guys want to play World Championship Russian Roulette? So there's a little bit of it's kind of like Secret Hitler, where you're like, fun game. I don't know who I'm going to play it with.
Right.
But it's so fun.
Yeah, So like you said, I got to play test it. So I saw a lot of different sort of iterations of it where at the beginning, those action cards were a lot harder to get. Like they were more rare in the game. And then the rules got tweaked to the point where they're coming out a lot easier. And I remember the last time I played it, which was right around when I think they launched the Kickstarter. So everything was really tuned up and playing really well. And I just remember, oh, this is so much fun now, because if you're behind, you're still getting these action cards that give you crazy things that you can do to try to get back at everybody. Yeah, it's a super fun game. The theme is super weird. And Alan is, if you hear him talk about it, like, he's very aware of that, and they try to approach that as lightheartedly as they can without being insensitive to people who might be dealing with suicide issues or things like that in their past. Like, that's a real concern. But yeah, obviously my opinion is a little biased because I was sort of a part of that development of that game, but I just thought it was a lot of fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because it's a cool little game, and it's like you said, it's chaotic, but you're playing World Championship Russian roulette. You should expect a little bit of chaos.
Yeah, so. And like I said, if you judge the fun factor of a game by how much people are laughing, that game is off the charts, because we were cracking up. So I mean, crazy things would happen, and you just laugh. It was super fun. Totally recommend that game.
Yeah, very cool.
And we'll have a review up of it soon.
Yeah, definitely. It's time for Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice.
Yes. So this is the segment of the show where we talk about two games. One that is on fire, and one that is not, one that is a little icy cold. So something that we're really, really excited to be playing right now and makes its way to the table quite a bit, and one that we're kind of like, meh, not so much. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this one off.
You do that.
And it's probably not that big of a surprise, but my fire game is Seven Wonders Duel. Yes. So I finally got to play it, and the crazy thing is my wife enjoys playing this game, so she and I have sat down to play it a few times. My boys love this game. Like, they will actually pull it out and play it on their own, which is great. It's it's definitely a little deeper game than some of the two-player games that they'll sit and play, but they love it and they think it's great. And then there's times where we've played where Cooper will sit next to me and Xavier will sit with Sarah, and we'll kind of like team up and we'll strategize together and things like that. So even though it's obviously not a 4-player game, we kind of make it a family event, and they enjoy that as well. So super, just awesome game, really, really fun. Enough good decision time, but nothing that's going to give you analysis paralysis. So I felt like, I was like, well, you only have 2 or 3 cards that you can pick at any time. Pick the one that's best and work your strategy, and the different paths to victory are great. The first game that we played, that saved my bacon, because I was getting clobbered in victory points, and I just kind of silently was collecting science cards, and the next thing you know, towards the very end of the third age, I got that last one and scored the science win, because I was going to be destroyed like 75-12 or something ridiculous, because I just couldn't get the cards I needed to build the resources, and then resources started costing me more and more because they had them all. Right. But it was great. It was a lot of fun, and that is my fire game for this month. Nice.
I'm glad we agreed on this, because it really would have affected our friendship if you didn't like it as much as I did, because I was staking a lot on that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a game. It's an oldie, kind of. It's a game called Blood Bowl. And Blood Bowl is fantasy football, but really it's football set in a world where there's humans and orcs, and it's basically the Warhammer universe, because this is a Games Workshop game. And so and you're just playing on this field where crazy things happen, and you can kill guys. I've seen players die in this game. And so anyway, but let me back up just a little bit. My sons had played Battle Ball. Milton Bradley, I think, came out with this game, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, and it did okay. It ended up getting clearance out, and I found a copy for super cheap. So it went on the shelf. And about 3 weeks ago, my boys pulled it out, and we went through the rules together, and they played it, and they loved it. And it's a really stripped down football game where there's like cyborgs, and it's all about dice rolling. And so if you roll better than the other person, yay you. And the boys were having a good time with it, and it was the same kind of thing where they'd set it up and play it on their own, and they were having a good time. And then my youngest was looking at my bookshelf, and he said, "Hey, Dad, what about Blood Bowl? Is that like Battle Ball?" And I was like, "Oh, son, someday I'll teach you Blood Bowl." And, I didn't want to ruin their fun with Battle Ball. They were certainly having fun with it, but I was like, look, this is the next level of game. And so they begged me, and I finally said, okay, well, I'll teach it to you. And it was like their jaws, as I'm explaining the rules, their jaws kept getting lower and lower and lower. And they were like, "Can we play that right now?" And I was like, "No," because it's kind of a long game. It's like, even with fast players, it takes 2.5 to 3 hours for a game.
Oh, wow.
There's just a lot going on. And they don't, even though I told them the rules, they don't really know the rules. So I would need to be there with them. And anyway, long story. We finally were able to get it to the table and play a little bit. And holy cow, they love this game. And Games Workshop just published a new edition of it in the last couple of months. It has been out of print for, I don't know, 11 or 15 years.
Oh, wow.
But the weird thing is they didn't update the rules at all. This was like, hey, we're going to upgrade the components, and they really did. They look nice. But the rules are the same as the ones that I've been playing with for all these years. And so that's kind of an interesting twist. Yeah. And it's $100. Oh. So very expensive. I mean, it's a Games Workshop game, so you're like, they're going to gouge you. But I'm telling you, this is a fun game. The base game comes with a human and an orc team.
Okay.
And I guess the plan is for them to come out with new teams. And that was part of the fun of the original Blood Bowl, was just they have all these different teams that have different strength, and they genuinely play differently. And so the orcs aren't very agile, but they're super strong. So they may win the war of attrition because they'll knock your guys out of the game, and then they can just march down the field. And the elves are very agile and light, and they're great at passing. And there's a Skaven team, which is basically rats, and they're super fast. They just go
nice.
They could score in one turn, but they're very fragile. Is your daughter waking up?
Yeah, she's grunting a little bit.
I just want our fans to know we're not farting on the podcast.
She does that every now and then.
So anyway, they're going to come out with new teams, and they're going to be reasonably priced, I guess, fairly, like $30.
Right.
And so anyway, Blood Bowl is coming back, and they just published a new one. So if you're in any way interested in kind of violent football with great rules and great teams and great fun, Blood Bowl is the game, because my kids love this game. They'll probably never play Battle Ball ever again, which, I didn't really want to happen. But when something's obviously better, it's like,
right. Why go to that
Yeah. I mean, it does take a lot longer. So you can play a Battle Ball game in 20 minutes or 3 hours. So there is a good reason for that. But,
sure.
Holy cow, it's fun.
That's crazy. I was really into that until you said it was like $100.
So that's retail, so you might be able to get it for 70 or I don't know.
Yeah. So I have this, I think it's from R&R Games. It's First and Goal, which is like this football simulation game, and it's not good. It's got cards that you use to call plays, and then those plays let you roll a certain amount of dice, but then the defense gets to roll dice if they pick the right play. It's just not good. So a good football game. My kids love football, so
I'm telling you, they would love this.
Maybe that'll be something we do for like Christmas or something, where it's a bigger thing. But they finally have the attention span for a longer game like that. We've been playing, which I totally forgot to mention, we've been playing the Star Wars role-playing game with them, and they love it. So, they'll sit at the table for like 3 or 4 hours while we go through, an adventure for an evening. And they cannot get enough of it. All they talk about is the next time we're going to get together and play. So it's pretty awesome. Anyway, now that we're sidetracked from that, let's get back on track.
Steer it back to the ice section.
And now it's the ice section. So these are the games that need to just cool off for a little bit, or maybe they're a little too cool and we need to let them warm up on our shelves for a while. Something. I'm just making stuff up now.
Obviously.
So, Scott, Mr. Firestone.
Yes.
What is your ice game?
This is a weird one for me, but it's Great Western Trail. So, this is a highly hyped game. It's by Stronghold Games, and it came out right around the same time that Terraforming Mars did. And they both sold out fast.
Right.
And I think the next editions are now coming into the market. And it's the kind of game that I should love. And it is a good game. Don't get me wrong. I really believe that. It's by the guy who designed Mombasa, which is another super thinky Euro. I think the problem for me was we played this game and it took 2.5 hours, I think. So it's a long, complex Euro about the Great Western Trail. You're kind of gathering up cattle and you're heading to Kansas City to sell them. And there's some hand management and deck building and movement on a map and putting down cities. And the truth is, I don't know if this is just me getting older, my taste changing, but there's too much going on for me.
Oh.
It's not that I couldn't keep track. It's just that I thought I'm overwhelmed with this game. And I know that there are multiple paths to victory and there are so many different connected things going on. And it's good. Like I said, the game is good. But for me, I just sat there and went, I'm not sure this is worth the payoff to me. I don't feel like I'm doing well, which is not, I don't judge a game necessarily by how well I'm doing, but it's part of the fun. It's like, I'm not sure I'm doing well, and I'm not sure I'll ever do well at this game as others who can, just play this better. And there are multiple paths to victory, but I don't know. I just can't explain it, but it's just too much going on for me. And so I'm not sure I ever need to play it again or own it or anything. It's just kind of like, that's a good game. It's just not my good game.
You have those, That's why there are hundreds and thousands of different game titles out there, because not everybody clicks with every title. So sometimes there's no good reason for it. It just works out that way.
Yeah. And I have this rubric on the Board Game Geek where I can match up games with friends, and so many of my friends give this an 8, a 9, or a 10. They love it, wow. And I'm just like, I feel like the guy that's just not getting this movie. Why does everyone like Casablanca so much? I don't get it. So anyway, it's a good game. If you like games like Russian Railroads or Mombasa or those super complex, lots going on Euros, you are going to love Great Western Trail. Absolutely. It's just not for me.
Just not for you. All right. Well, there you have it.
What about you?
So, for me, and again, it's not that this is a bad game. It's a fine game. I liked it, and it definitely serves a purpose in my collection. But it is Vikings on Board, which it's a gorgeous game to look at. The components are amazing. I think I've posted pictures on our Instagram page, and did I do a review of this? I think I did. I know I did one on That's How I Roll. Maybe I haven't done the written one yet.
I don't remember seeing a written one, though.
Maybe not. I should do that. But Vikings on Board, again, not that I don't like the game. It's a fun game. I think I've played it a little too much with my boys recently. It's very, I'd almost say worker placement, but it's almost more action selection than worker placement. So the game board is this big Viking harbor, and on one side of the board is a marketplace, or not a marketplace, but the harbor. There's all these different buildings that you can go to, and these buildings give you actions. So on the other side of the board, which is most of the board, is the actual harbor itself, and there's ships lined up across this dock that's there, and all of the ship pieces, it's kind of cut into sections, and each one has a certain color and then a certain number of shields on the middle portions of the ships. So you're trying to get goods onto a ship and then also control that ship with having more of your color shields on that ship, and then set sail. If you set sail, then you get to pick which goods you get from that ship. And you can also, one of the actions that you can do is you can drive up the value of certain goods on your turn. So basically there's all these different types of actions, move one to the front, swap pieces between two ships, move a piece to the back of a ship, put a good on a ship, that kind of thing. But you can only do each of those actions once per round. And then once you do all that, you set sail to a ship. If somebody chose that action, they get to choose which one gets pushed away from the dock, and then you do it again. It's fun. It's a very good intro game for worker placement. It's light enough that the boys kind of got the concept of, if I want to do this, I have to go here, and I need to make sure that I do that now if that's what I really want to do, because somebody else can go there and I won't be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But it just, I don't know. For some reason, it's fallen a little flat for me recently. And again, it might just be that it's overplayed a little bit. Like I said, I really don't have any reason to not like it. But it's just kind of a little cold for me right now. I will always stand by the fact that it is a gorgeous game. It is really, really well made. The components are outstanding. But it just is, I'm just kind of meh on it right now. Oh. So there you go. Not that I would say don't play it or don't buy it, but it's where I am with that one right now. So sorry.
You don't have to apologize. You be who you are, Jeremiah.
Okay.
So that's Fire and Ice.
That is it.
Let us know how you feel about those games.
Yes, by all means.
Tweet at us. Write us on Facebook, because I want to know, maybe somebody out there's like, how can you think that Great Western Trail's not good? Or I hate Blood Bowl or 107 Wonders Duel. Tell us about it. Talk to us. We want to have a conversation about it, and we'd love to talk to you. And if you can convince me that Great Western Trail is a great game, for me, that'll be quite an accomplishment.
We will mail you a cookie.
Yes.
Sure. Anyway.
Let's move on.
Let's do. It's time.
Fill in the blank, fill in the blank. Hey, everybody, it's fill in the blank.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-boom. So, fill in the blank is the segment of the show where we, wait for it, fill in the blank.
Yes.
So
we have blanks and we're going to fill them.
Have blank, will fill. So we have two different statements for today's show, and we're going to talk about that. And again, we're going to kick this out to you, the listeners. Shoot us a tweet, a Facebook message, an email, whatever it is. Let us know how you would fill in these blanks. And the first one is, the game I'm considering backing on Kickstarter right now is...
For me, it is Gloomhaven.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you are familiar with this game. I wasn't until it showed up at game night in this enormous box, like the size of a coffin.
Right.
And I was like, what in the world is that? And somebody was like, oh, you didn't hear about this? And it was on Kickstarter before, and I think it was $80, which is probably why I didn't pay any attention to it, because I'm like, well, there you go. I'm done.
There it is. Yep.
But if it's a dungeon crawl game, cooperative dungeon crawl game with legacy aspects to it and unlockables, and the reason the box is so big is because there's tons of crap in the box. And the first edition just sold out, and it is this number 7 game on Board Game Geek right now.
Oh wow!
Of all time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's yeah. So they launched another Kickstarter, and it's going on right now. And as we're recording this, there's 11 days to go, and they are at $2.4 million.
Oh my goodness!
Because now, well, everybody, people know the hype now and are aware of it, whereas I wasn't even aware of it before. And it's $100 now. Same game. There are a couple of things that are different. Instead of standees, now there's miniatures for the heroes and things like that.
Sure.
But basically, it's a dungeon crawler with like literally 100 different scenarios.
Wow.
And each one's a little different. Each one has a few different things, and you unlock characters as the game moves on. I haven't looked at much because I don't want to spoil much, but there are lots of characters that are locked at the beginning of the game. So you start with this character and you kind of build them up a little bit, and then at some point that character will retire and you'll open up this new character. And apparently it's not just like, oh, here are the 4 standard, like there's a barbarian and there's a rogue and there's a wizard. They're just totally cool new classes and races and monsters, tons of monsters, and it plays solo really well apparently. So I'm just envisioning me and my boys, probably not my wife, but you never know, sitting down and playing these 100 scenarios over time together, because my boys love Descent, love it. And Tom Vassell, who loves Descent probably more than I do, said in his review just a few days ago that this game killed Descent for him.
Oh my goodness.
He said he might play it once in a while still because he likes being the overlord, but he said this game is one of his favorite games of all time now.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out, am I willing to pay $100 for this game? The upside being, of course, even if I don't like it, it'll probably sell out again, and then I can easily make my money back, even if I don't make more. But I
mean, if you think about it, it's only $1 a scenario. Yeah,
and that's honestly how I looked at it, because somebody said, well, it's over an hour probably per scenario, and I'm like, $1 an hour for tons of fun, and
right.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna pull the trigger. Cash in some. Hey, my birthday's coming up. You guys want to pool your money and anybody want to do that? So I think I have not bought a game on Kickstarter in a long time. Yeah, and I certainly can't remember the last time I paid $100 for a game. But I think I'm going to pull the trigger on this.
Yeah, that I keep seeing images of it, pictures and stuff around the internet. And I hadn't had a chance to really look into it, but man, that sounds super awesome and really amazing. And that would probably be my fill in the blank as well after talking to you about it. But I did have another one in mind, although I guess the right now part of the fill in the blank is probably going to disqualify my answer, but I just spoke with Lance Meister, who is also known as the Undead Viking and also known as one of the media / press guys over at Tasty Minstrel Games. And they are preparing, I think he said probably Q3, Q4 of this year, of launching a Kickstarter for a game called Downfall. And Downfall is a game set in post-apocalyptic. There I go, not talking again.
4 hours.
4 hours. Post-apocalyptic U.S. The world is in this post-apocalyptic nuclear winter is coming kind of scenario, but it is he said area control and card drafting and just really sleek mechanics built into this thing. and it's also a miniatures game. So it is Tasty Minstrel's very first miniatures game that they're putting together. Everything that he said about it just sounded on point. It sounded really, really well done. And it's something that Tasty Minstrel has kind of wanted to do for a long time, and they were just kind of waiting for the right game to come along. And this one is it. So that was the one I was going to say, but then you busted out Gloomhaven and made me think twice about that. But nevertheless, Downfall sounds really, really good. He said a lot of folks are going to loosely compare it to Blood Rage.
Okay. Yeah.
Which he said is fair, but it is completely different. It does hold its own very, very well. So I'm going to go with that.
That is totally cheating, but I'm going to allow it.
Okay. Are you going to do I get docked points? Is there a scoreboard somewhere? All right.
Your penance is that you have to chip in on my Gloomhaven campaign. Okay. All right. So now the next question.
Yes.
Blank is the TV show I'm loving right now. And I asked this question because you have a teeny little baby at home and you're not getting much sleep. And so I figured you're probably up late with things to do. And I know that when I had babies, I watched a lot of television. And my wife watched, she would watch Conan O'Brien all the time. Just because, when my youngest was up at that time, that's what was on. And so every day she'd be like, oh, I watched Conan O'Brien last night and blah, blah, blah. Right. And so I thought maybe there's some kind of show that you're totally hooked on because you have this opportunity to watch it.
So, yeah, I know. Well, I'm just going to tell stories about my wife for a second. She has burned through so many shows over the last 10 weeks now. Are we 11 weeks? She watched, there's this show called Heartland. It's like a Canadian horse farm show drama thing. Seriously, there's 8
that
seasons.
Sounds compelling.
Yeah, there's 8 seasons of this thing, and she burned through all of them. And before that, there was some other Hallmark show. It was a Little House on the Prairie type setting. I can't even remember it, but there were 3 or 4 seasons of that she went through. And then she watched Leverage, and now she's watching Night Shift. I'm not watching any of those, but the TV show I'm loving right now is the new season of MST3K. And I am savoring them. I'm not binging them.
Yeah.
Because there's 14 of them. And then once those are done, is there going to be another season? Man, I really hope, but I'm not sure. So have you seen any of them yet?
I've done the same thing you did. I'm meeting them out. So I've watched one. I watched Reptilicus, the very first one.
So I just finished the 5th one.
Okay, yeah. You're moving faster than I.
So yeah, I'm moving a little quick, but I also have opportunity for that. So my initial thoughts are #NotMyGypsy. I have a lot of friends who hated the old Gypsy. I absolutely loved the old Gypsy, and I'm sad that they changed her the way, the whole, her coming down from the ceiling thing, fine with me. By the way, spoiler alert, sorry about that. But the voice change is killing me right now. Otherwise, I think it's right in line with the rest of the seasons, except for the fact it seems like they're almost trying to cram in too many riffs. I
totally agree with you.
There'll be a 4-second shot, of something happening, and they all 3 shout out something. And I'm like, okay, those were actually all really good, but I didn't have time to think about that because the next one was coming so fast.
Yes, that is part of comedy. You have to allow time for things to land and to process.
Yeah.
And they're just talking right over each other. Riff. And you're like, whoa. That was, just like you said, that's funny, but
now
pick one.
Sometimes they're doing it because it's the sequence they're trying to pull off, which is funny and it works. But then there's other times when it's whoa, I can't, that was funny. Yeah, okay, that was funny too. Maybe a little more discretion in their riffing, but not that the writing has suffered. I feel like the writing is good, the riffs are good, but just pick which one you want there and go with it.
I totally agree. You have to kill your darlings.
Yeah. Now the show segments, the host segments, I feel like those have really stepped up and they're super funny now. Like we all laugh that like so many of the old show segments are super not funny because they spend all their time writing the riffs for the movies, which there's a lot of the old host segments that I thought were really funny, but I think a lot of the host segments are top notch in the new season. So, and there's a few guest appearances coming up soon, but I won't spoil that for you.
Please don't, because I've been avoiding spoilers, but my complaint was absolutely that they were just too many riffs. And the other one, this is a weird one, but the main host, I'm trying to think of his name now.
Jonah.
Yes, Jonah
Heston.
I can't stand his voice there because it's too soft.
Uh-huh.
It's too average. And I know that sounds weird, but he'll say something and I'll be like, well, I'm not even he was too soft spoken, and it's like he doesn't have a good voice for delivery on that.
Yeah.
And I know that's a weird thing to complain about, but I just don't like his voice on there.
I'm okay with his voice, but I do feel like the three of their voices are very similar.
Yes.
Like Crow's is the easiest to pick out, but between Tom and Jonah, sometimes I'm like, not sure who that was.
Yeah, and in the original show, they moved people around more, so you could tell who was talking, even if that did happen.
Yeah.
And they don't really do that near as much now. So you're like, I really don't know who said that. And I guess it's not important, but still, like it loses some of the life of when that happens.
Right, you lose a little bit of the character.
Yeah.
So, but regardless, overall, I'm still really happy with it. And you gotta think, okay, these three guys that are doing this is the first time they've jumped into the riffing pool, so to speak. So they've got a lot to learn. Because if you go back and watch some of those early seasons of the show, oof, they had a lot to learn too.
Yes, I agree. I think it's a success. I was hesitant, but after watching it, this first episode, I go, you know what? I think, it's like the new Star Wars where you go, everything's not perfect, but this was obviously done by people who love it. And I think they did a good job.
Yep. And it's enjoyable, even though, we may pick it apart here and there. It's still super enjoyable and lighthearted and fun, which is what I wanted it to be, because we need more of that. So, did you want to fill in the blank or?
Sure. So the TV show I'm loving right now is called The Expanse, and it is the opposite of lighthearted and fun. Its second season just finished last night, actually. The season finale was last night. And it is a science fiction show based on this book series that I have read called The Expanse. And it is science fiction set in our close universe, like Mars and, Earth and the moon.
Like our solar system.
Yeah, it's not like way out there in some kind of, it's not Star Wars. It's kind of using real science, and they're mining for water on these moons that have ice all over them and things like that. I would say it's very realistic.
Okay.
And so there are these interesting characters, and it's gritty, but not like Game of Thrones gritty. It's just kind of like, this isn't a future where everything's perfect, and it's not a utopia, but there's good things and bad things, and some crazy things start to happen. And I don't want to spoil anything, but if you like science fiction, I recommend the book series and I recommend the TV series, because the guys who wrote it's two guys under one name that write the series, and they are integral in the TV series too.
Nice.
They write some of the episodes. They're consulted on everything, and so you watch this show and you go, yeah, absolutely, I buy into this. It's not way off the source material. It's well acted. The actors do a great job, and it's a fantastic show.
What network is it on?
It's on Sci-Fi.
Oh, okay. So it's literally a Sci-Fi. Gotcha.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to see, maybe Hulu's got that, since I missed it as it was airing live. Not that I have Sci-Fi Network right now, but yeah, usually I can find stuff on Hulu. So yeah, I'm always down for a good sci-fi show. We've been watching The Travelers on Netflix too, which is pretty intense.
I've seen that on there, but I haven't watched it. So it's good, huh?
It's a very unique take on time travel.
Cool.
And yeah, it's good. We're about halfway through the first season. So good stuff.
Cool.
Well, that brings us to the lightning round.
We're wrapping things up with the lightning round, which is a few questions with short answers. And
Yes.
We're going to really try and keep them short.
Of course we are.
Partly because my computer is running out of juice and I forgot to bring a cord down there.
Ruh-roh. Okay, let's do
I have
it.
time. It's fine. First question. Jeremiah, how do you feel about the trailer for The Last Jedi?
I feel excited. No, I'm pretty pumped about it. It was interesting. Somebody posted online. They posted the teaser trailer to episode 7 and episode 8, this one, right next to each other. And they're almost like shot for shot, like the same type of shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when Kylo Ren's watching the Star Killer beams go across the
Right.
bridge and everything, there's like a shot of a villain with something going in front of them, like from behind, and like so
Right.
all these things, like it's crazy. I gotta find that link. I'll post it somewhere. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be really cool to see the development of Rey and the development of Kylo Ren as they kind of. I feel like this one's going to be kind of like the passing of the mantle to the new characters in the universe. So we'll see, but I am excited for it, very much so. What about you?
Sometimes our bodies just do things involuntarily when things happen. I know that sounds weird, but you'll understand in a second. I get to the end of that, and just like I did with the first one after the trailer, or when I was sitting there in the theater when the new movie had come out, I had head to toe goosebumps. And I couldn't control them, obviously. You just go, that affected me. And I'm so excited for that, obviously, because my body just went, whoa! So
nice.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'll have to find that link to that video with those side
Yeah, I
by
definitely want
side.
to see that.
It'll trip you out. It's and you wonder, like, they probably did that on purpose. They're just...
Or they're all following a formula.
Right. There's a cookie cutter that they put together to feed us information without telling us anything. All right. That was pretty quick. Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. So, lightning round. Basketball playoffs or hockey playoffs?
Okay, this is a loaded question because I know your answer. You know my answer. Anyone who knows us knows this answer. But my answer is hockey playoffs. I love hockey. I have loved hockey since middle school when some buddies of mine who were really into it, I started hanging out with them and watching it. And at that time, I started loving the Pittsburgh Penguins because Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr were playing.
Yeah.
And I think Mario Lemieux is the best player who ever played the game. So I've been a Pittsburgh Penguins fan since I was in middle school. So I loved it last year when they won, and I'm rooting for them this year again. So hockey playoffs, go Penguins.
There you go. I've actually been to one or two Penguins games, but that was because they were playing the Detroit Red Wings. So I had
their arch rivals.
I had my Steve Yzerman jersey on. And yeah, I do. I like hockey a lot. It's really hard to follow it in the area that I live in because Columbus is the closest, Columbus and Pittsburgh and Detroit are all kind of encircling us, but Cleveland isn't really a hockey town. They don't talk about it a lot on sports radio out here. Although we have the Lake Erie Monsters, which is like the minor league affiliate for the Blue Jackets. And they won the Calder Cup last year, their championship. which was really, everybody was excited. And then the Cavs won, and it was like, oh, that hockey team, that's cute. But actually, a lot of them were a part of like the championship parade and stuff too. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, definitely, I love hockey playoffs. Don't get me wrong. And I enjoy it because it's already an intense game, and it is just ratcheted up in the playoffs for sure. But I am definitely following the basketball playoffs much, much, much more closely, and pulling for our Cavs to kind of get it. They've kind of been sleepwalking through the regular season, so they're about to turn that switch and really get things into gear here. But they got to get
hopefully.
Yeah. Everybody's a little. I don't know. It's Cleveland. We have every right to be nervous and tense and whatnot. But it's going to be a wild ride, I think, this postseason. So looking forward to it. And, hopefully we can pull it off again this year. But repeating is so hard. So, yeah. But I would be okay with them repeating. So there you go. Yeah. Totally loaded question. Yeah. Just so we could talk about things we like. And lightning round. Last question of the episode. Pizza, thin crust or thick crust?
Thin crust, which I would not have answered until this place in town we went to. That is, this guy from Italy owns it. He imports all these fresh ingredients. And it's on thin crust pizza. And I thought, I don't like thin crust. And then I had his pizza and I was like, oh, apparently I super do because this is amazing. So thin crust.
So let me ask for a clarification. When you say thick crust, are you talking like a deep dish?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like a Chicago.
Okay.
Like New York style versus Chicago style.
Gotcha. Gosh, that is actually a very hard question because I've had like deep dish pizza in Chicago, like Lou Malnati's and places like that, which are amazing. Like you eat half a piece and you're like, I'm done. And then I've had pizza that you walk into the place in New York City and they throw it in the oven and like the bottom has like this crisp, but it's chewy and like legit New York pizza. And they're both outstanding. So I'd probably say if I had to pick, I would go with the Chicago style, the deep dish, but that thin, crunchy, chewy, crispy New York style is a very close second. So that one's a toss up, but I'll give it to the deep dish for now. But
all right, we'll give it to you.
It's past lunchtime too, and it's making me hungry. So.
Well, that sounds like a perfect place to wrap things up for episode 16.
It does. So let's wrap it up. Thanks so much for everybody who listens to the show. Thank you even more if you have given us a rating on iTunes and written a review on iTunes. That's super awesome. If you want to find out more about Theology of Games, you can go to theologyofgames.com. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. Do we have an Etsy account yet? I don't know. Like
Now.
But we are all over the place. Everything is at Theology of Games, one word. No underscores or anything goofy like that. We would love to hear your feedback. Answer the lightning round questions. Fill in the blanks. Talk to us about our Fire and Ice games. There's plenty of opportunities for you to interact with us and tell us that we're wrong or stupid, or don't tell us we're stupid because that's not nice, but you know what I'm saying.
Or great.
And, the most wise men that walk the planet when it comes to board gaming.
Or something in the middle.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned. We got more reviews and news and interviews, and thanks for joining us on the journey.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Theology of Games podcast with Jeremiah Isley and Scott Firestone. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate your subscription to the podcast and your review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day, and until next time, get a game on the table.